Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we're talking about something that sounds like it's pulled from the pages of a science fiction novel. Buildings that are literally alive. Imagine skyscrapers that don't just stand there, but actively breathe, inhaling the carbon dioxide from our cities and exhaling fresh oxygen. This isn't a far-off dream. It's the cutting edge of science, a field called bio-inspired engineering, and it's creating photosynthetic living materials that could completely change our world and give us a powerful new weapon against climate change. The construction industry is a huge source of carbon emissions. Just making cement accounts for a shocking 8% of the world's CO2. Our cities are carbon nightmares of concrete and steel. But what if we could flip the script? What if our buildings could go from being carbon intensive to being carbon negative? Let's dive into the incredible world of photosynthetic materials, where science is merging the living with the non-living to build a greener future. At its heart, a living material is a team-up between two key components. First, you have the living part, microscopic powerhouses, like cyanobacteria and microalgae. Think of them as tiny, living solar panels. They perform photosynthesis, using sunlight to turn CO2 and water into energy and oxygen. The second part is the non-living matrix. This is the house where the microorganisms live. It's often a hydrogel, which is a kind of squishy, water-rich polymer network. This gel structure is perfect because it lets sunlight, water, CO2, and nutrients pass through, giving the microbes everything they need to thrive. When you combine them, the magic starts. The microorganisms, safe inside their gel matrix, get to work absorbing CO2. They don't just produce oxygen, they also create more of themselves, a process that stores the captured carbon in their own cells. But it gets even better. Certain types of cyanobacteria can trigger a process called biomineralization. In the presence of calcium, they convert the captured CO2 into solid calcium carbonate. That's the same stuff that makes up coral reefs and limestone. This process is a total game changer because it not only locks away carbon in a super stable, solid form, but it also hardens the material over time. A soft gel can literally transform into a durable, hard structure. It's like living cement. To make this even more effective, scientists are using 3D printing. This lets them design and print incredibly complex structures with a huge surface area, ensuring most of the microbes get plenty of access to light and CO2. The choice of which tiny organism to use is crucial, and scientists have two main contenders, cyanobacteria and microalgae. Cyanobacteria, sometimes called blue-green algae, are some of the oldest life forms on our planet. They're actually responsible for one of the most important events in Earth's history, the Great Oxidation Event, where they pumped our atmosphere full of the oxygen that allowed complex life, including us, to evolve. Now, these ancient microbes are being recruited for a new job. Species like Synechococcus are easy to genetically modify, so scientists can engineer them to be even more efficient at photosynthesis. Others, like Nostoc, can pull nitrogen directly from the air, meaning they act as their own fertilizer. And as we mentioned, their ability to create minerals makes them perfect for self-hardening building materials. Then we have microalgae. These are slightly more complex eukaryotic organisms, but they are also masters of photosynthesis. You might already know some of them. Chlorella vulgaris is incredibly robust and can be woven into photosynthetic textiles. Chlamydomonas reinhardtii is another lab favorite, not just for materials, but also for producing biofuels and even for medical uses. The choice between cyanobacteria and microalgae really depends on the job. For tough construction work, the resilient, mineral-making cyanobacteria are often the top pick. For other biotech applications, the versatility of microalgae might be a better fit. Of course, these living engines need a home. And that's the matrix. The matrix isn't just a scaffold, it's a carefully designed microenvironment. As we said, hydrogels are the most common choice. Natural polymers from seaweed, like alginate, are popular because they are biocompatible and biodegradable. But researchers are looking beyond gels too. At Newcastle University, they've embedded algae into textiles like cotton and canvas to create living textiles. Imagine carbon-capturing curtains or wallpaper. Scientists at MIT have even developed a synthetic polymer gel that doesn't contain living organisms, but is inspired by them. It reacts with CO2 in the air to grow, strengthen, and even repair itself. And in the quest for living bricks, researchers use a mix of sand and hydrogel as a scaffold. Cyanobacteria then grow inside, performing their biomineralization trick to bind the sand particles together, creating a solid, self-healing brick from scratch. Companies like Prometheus Materials are already commercializing this, using microalgae to create a biocement for low-carbon concrete blocks. So what can we actually do with all this? The applications are incredibly diverse and exciting. The biggest and most obvious application is in sustainable construction. Imagine building facades that act like giant leaves, cleaning the city air. Researchers at ETH Zurich are developing 3D printable living skins that can be coated onto buildings to do just that, while also helping to reduce the urban heat island effect. Then there's the concept of self-healing concrete. By embedding cyanobacteria into the mix, we can create concrete that fixes its own cracks. When a crack forms, water gets in, activating the dormant bacteria. They start photosynthesizing and produce calcium carbonate, which neatly fills the crack and restores the building's integrity. This could dramatically extend the lifespan of our bridges, roads, and buildings. And with living bricks and bioconcrete becoming a reality, we have a clear path to replacing one of the world's most polluting materials with a sustainable, carbon-negative alternative. Beyond buildings, these materials are fantastic for environmental cleanup, a process called bioremediation. We can create efficient bioreactors to treat wastewater, with the algae absorbing pollutants like nitrogen and phosphorus. They can scrub CO2 from the flue gases of power plants and factories. They can even be used to clean up toxic leachate from landfills, breaking down heavy metals and other nasty compounds. And the biomass that's generated by all this activity isn't waste. It's a valuable resource. This leads us to a green industrial revolution. This biomass can be converted into biofuels, offering a renewable alternative to gasoline. It can be used to make bioplastics and biopolymers, helping us tackle the global plastic pollution crisis. And using the tools of synthetic biology, we can engineer these microorganisms to become tiny factories, producing high-value chemicals for pharmaceuticals, nutritional supplements, and cosmetics. Perhaps the most mind-bending applications are in medicine. The ability to produce oxygen on demand is opening up entirely new medical treatments. For chronic wounds like those some diabetic patients suffer from, a lack of oxygen prevents healing. Scientists have developed photosynthetic hydrogel wound dressings. When you shine a light on the dressing, the microalgae inside produce a steady supply of oxygen right where it's needed, promoting healing and fighting off infections. This same principle applies to tissue engineering. One of the biggest hurdles in growing artificial tissues or organs in the lab is getting enough oxygen to the cells. By combining human cells with photosynthetic microbes in a 3D printed scaffold, we can create tissues that generate their own oxygen. It's even being explored for cancer therapy. Many solid tumors have low oxygen environments, which makes them resistant to radiation. By delivering photosynthetic microbes to a tumor, we can raise the oxygen levels and make the cancer cells vulnerable to treatment again. Now, despite all this incredible promise, we're not quite ready to start living in algae-powered cities tomorrow. There are challenges. The first is scale and cost. Making these materials is still expensive, and scaling up from the lab to industrial production is a huge leap. Second is long-term stability. A building needs to last for decades. We need more research to know how these living materials will hold up over long periods in harsh weather. And finally, there are regulatory hurdles and public perception. The idea of a living building needs to be proven safe and effective to gain the trust of architects, engineers, and the public. The path forward is lit by continued innovation, especially from the field of synthetic biology. By engineering these microbes, we can boost their photosynthetic efficiency, give them new functions, and make them more resilient to stress. Turning this science into reality will require investment, entrepreneurship, and supportive government policies that create a market for sustainable materials. The development of photosynthetic living materials is a fundamental shift in how we build our world. It's a move away from static, inert materials towards ones that are dynamic, regenerative, and truly alive. By learning from the elegant solutions found in nature, we are on the verge of creating buildings that don't just shelter us, but actively work to heal our planet. The dawn of living architecture is here, bringing with it a real hope for a more sustainable and vibrant future.